Welcome to the end of the world in Lop Voice Chats. Your host, Luke 74. Today's topic will be a part of a two-part series on 7 seals of Revelations. Tonight we'll cover seals 1 through 6. And Friday we'll cover the last seal, seal 7. The book of Revelations was written by the Apostle John while he was exiled on the island of Patmos. God gave him a vision of the future, of what will come. If you watch the news, you read the papers, you can kind of tell something's coming our way. Take the puzzle pieces and start putting them together and read Revelations and you'll see similarities. Now, I'm not covering the whole book of Revelations. That'd be like a 10-part, 20-part series. We're just going to cover the seals and some parts of Revelations that go along with it. Seals, there's 7 of them, of course. And the 7th seal opens up. The trumpets and the bowls leads to Armageddon and God coming back. Tonight, we'll discuss what they could mean to us, these seals. First 4 seals of Revelations is called the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, as you'll see why as we read them off. I'll be going off one seal at a time as we discuss it. First 4 seals go together, more or less. That's why they're called the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. The 5th one's kind of creepy, to be honest. It's the martyrdom of the saints, followed by the 6th seal, which is epic doom, like you have never seen before. So, let's get started, shall we? Are you ready for this? This is your future, according to the Holy Word, the Bible. First seal. These seals, what are the seals, Luke? What are these seals? They are judgments from God, pretty much. The first seal is the Antichrist seal, many claim to say and studied. This is Revelations 6, 1 through 2. I watched as the Lamb opened the first of the 7 seals. I heard one of the 4 living creatures say in a voice like thunder, "Come." I looked, and there before me was a white horse. His rider held a bow. He was given a crown, and he rode out to conquer and on conquest. Now ask yourself this question, okay? What would bring the whole world together, have a one-world leader, a one-world government, and a one-world religion? What could possibly bring the whole world together so that one man could lead it all? This man who is called the Antichrist. Could it be an economic collapse of every economy? A natural disaster of epic proportions, such as Yellowstone going off? Perhaps a nuclear disaster worse than Chernobyl and Fukushima? What do you think could bring the whole world together? Chat room? Does anyone wish to mic up and give me your opinion, or please type in the chat room what you think this could be? Anyone has an opinion on this? Anyone at all? This man has a crown. He rides a white horse. He rides up to conquer, bent on conquest. He wants the whole world underneath of him, basically. You guys hear me? Hello? Testing.
Can you hear me now? Hello?
Hear you? Go ahead, please.
I
Does anyone have an opinion on the first seal again, about how the world could come together through one ruler, the Antichrist? Would it be economic collapse, like I said, perhaps a natural disaster. What do you guys think on the first seal? What is your opinion? Anyone in the room?
The first seal, you find the same image as Apollo, where he brings plague. You got the second one is war, the third one famine, and they test the virtues of faith and hope and charity. And then the fourth rider brings death and hell with him, which I assume is, the zombie apocalypse.
Well said. Some people disagree with it. They'll say the first seal is the veiling of the Antichrist. The second seal is war. The third is famine. And the fourth seal is pestilence. Let's go to seal number 2 now, shall we? You'll say this is on this war. Laying open the second seal, I heard the second living creature say, "Come." And their horse came out, a fiery red one. His rider was given to take pieces from the earth and to make men slay each other. To him was given a large sword.
To kill a third of the people of the earth.
There you have it. A third of the earth is killed through war, basically. 1/3 of the population of the planet is gone. Boom, like that. So, if this is a world war, who's fighting, you think? Could it be us against Russia? Perhaps China? Or maybe it's a combined number of countries versus the Islamic countries in the Middle East, like what's going on in Syria right now. Whatever it is, though, it's not just a conventional warfare, but it takes out 1/3 of the population of the planet. It's probably somewhat nuclear, chemical, biological, or even some new weapons we haven't even seen yet. So you have all the major players in a war, basically. 1/3 of the population of the planet gone. Yes, that's the second seal. Rider, given power to take peace from the earth. Beforehand, you have the Antichrist in the scene, solving some of the world's problems. There's some peace temporarily. And these 7 seals happen in a time period of 7 years, by the way, too. So 7 years of tribulation. 2 billion people gone. A lot of people on this planet. Go on the third seal, then we'll all tie these all together. Third seal, some say it's famine. When the Lamb opened the third seal, I heard the third living creature say, "Come." I looked, and before me was a black horse. His rider was holding a pair of scales in his hands. There was something like a voice among the 4 living creatures saying, "A quart of wheat for a day's wages, and 3 quarts of barley for a day's wages. Do not damage the oil and the wine." So not only you have war going on, you have famine. People are starving. It's a day's wages for a piece of bread, basically. So you think about it, though. This kind of war is also damaging crops, affecting the food supply. People are starving. I'm sure they're starving. They're also dying, too. You have 1/3 of the population gone, which roughly is 2 billion people right now, if this happens anytime soon, if not more. And I'll go on to read the 4th seal, then we'll discuss all these all at once, because they all tie together, pretty much. 4th seal, when he says pestilence. The Lamb opened the 4th seal. I heard the voice of the 4th living creature say, "Come." I looked, and there before me was a pale horse. His rider was named Death, and Hades was close behind him. They were given power over 1/4 of the earth to kill by sword, famine, and plague, and by the wild beasts of the earth. So you take 1/3 of the population that was already dead, 2/3 left, and I take another 1/4 off. The population is dwindling down now, pestilence. Pestilence caused from disease of rotting bodies, maybe virus escapes from a laboratory, one we can't stop. Everybody says cannibalism. Probably, if you're starving to death, what are you going to do? There's no food around, there's no storage areas. All the trucks are down because of war, there's no food going to the supermarkets. There's enough animals out there to eat, so what do? Eat each other? I don't know, man. I don't think I could do that too much. What do you think, Bug Girl? What you're taking the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse? Pretty scary stuff, isn't it? And disease too. That's right. And what does Jibby say? Cole Elementris, they took all the nutrients of foods who are currently starving in sickness. Let them eat cake, kind of thing. Right. Exactly. I mean, the more they mess with our foods with Monsanto, they keep playing around with them. The nutrition's basically gone. They're leaching the soil of nutrients. So people are constantly hungry all the time. Not because there's no food, because there's no nutrients in the food anymore. And the Bug Girl declines to talk because she's eating a certain herb of the earth. So she'll fast tonight. So you get more of me then. Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. War, we have pestilence.
I think on the fourth horseman that comes out, you know, you've got an opportunity here as a believer in this kind of thing to see some more ancient concepts of prophecy. One of the oldest of the Babylonian prophecies was that the dead would, in the end of days, rise up and devour the living. And this was when Dumuzi was finally slain and buried because Ishtar had escaped from the underworld. Again, a death and resurrection legend, that because she was allowed to escape the underworld, that when finally Dumuzi, her lover, his time was done, that the dead would rise. And I see this here in Christian eschatology. You see that when the apocalypse has come, and this rider comes forth, and death and hell follow with him. I think that this is literally Hades, those souls who had died and were stored in Hades, that they are rising again from the dead to walk among us. Whether to devour us, I couldn't say.
Nice take on it, I like that. This is the first World Sales. There's more to go, guys. This yeah, one fourth of the population gone, and another third of it gone. I mean, you're dwindling down pretty quickly. You're probably at, I imagine, population of what, 6 billion people right now, and the first about 2 billion people off the face of Earth, and we're probably down to about 3.5 billion people now. Almost half the population of the planet, just from the four seals alone. From war, from famine, from pestilence. Now, we've been through some major wars in the past times. World War II, World War I, the Gulf War. And we never even come close to 1 billion people being dead. This must be a pretty bad war for 1/3 of the population to die from this war alone. Like I said, it's not a conventional war either. It kills everybody off. It has to be a limited nuclear war, in my opinion. How else are you going to kill off 2 billion people? I mean, this is scary stuff. I mean, we all had, you know, fears when we were younger about nuclear war and stuff. Don't stop, drop, and roll, and depending on how old you are, you know. And this is reality. It's full of reality from prophecy from the Apostle John. So what do you think? If there's a world war, it takes 2 billion people off the planet, who's fighting it? It has to be the major players, right? United States of America, Russia, China, maybe India, maybe a number of countries. To me, this sounds like World War III starting, basically, you know. And what could cause a world war of this epic proportions? You have the Antichrist who wants to take control of the world. Maybe they're fighting against the Antichrist. And in Revelations, you read further in the book, they are fighting against him. And everybody's laying down and saying, oh, yes, I want to be part of your team, Antichrist. You know, I want to be part, give me the mark. And we'll talk about the mark of the beast in a little bit. But 2 billion people gone. Pretty scary. And then you can't grow anything maybe because of radiation or because of the war, enough people to harvest the crops. Famine. A day's wages for a loaf of bread. People are starving out there too. No food. We have the zombie crowd in the chat room saying, yeah, we'll eat each other, you know, cannibalism. All kinds of takes on it. Tainted water or food, tainted air, Jibby said. Yeah, if you have a nuclear war, you have radiation everywhere. It's affecting the crops. It's affecting the waters. And there's more that have to come. This is only the first 4 seals. Then you have pestilence, okay, disease. Disease that kills the remaining, not the remaining though, but kills another 1/3 people. So you have a resistant disease out there flying around the planet basically, coming from either a laboratory or all the dead bodies, animals from the war, floating around. Now if it kills that many people, I mean there's no cure for it probably. Or no antibiotics or any vaccinations going around to stop this thing because of the war going on. When you have a major war going on, a world war going on, your transportation is next to nothing basically. Depending how bad the war is, you don't have any trucks running at all. So how are people get food? How are people going to get supplies and medical supplies? You're not going to get them at all. So people are going to die by the millions, in this case by the billions in the first 4 seals. More to come, like I said. Krista, what's your take on this? I mean, on the pestilence thing, is it coming from an escaped virus from the laboratory? Is it coming from dead bodies? Where's this coming from, you think?
First, let me check my volume. Is this okay? Okay. Could come from anywhere. I mean, they've got all these bad conditions. It could just be lack of sanitation. You get all kinds of bugs floating around from that. It could be bioweapons too. Yeah, it could be a lot of things. But I wanted to ask, do you think that the seals are the times of the War of Ezekiel 38?
Ooh, good question. Kind of stumped me there a little bit. Man, I don't know. I want to say yes though, but I got to look up to my old studies though. I wasn't planning on including more books in this one, just the 7 seals, but in Ezekiel and also in Daniel, there's a verse that tie in with Revelations. And one of the verses, I need to look it up though, is like, it's talking about like a robot army where soldiers will fall on swords and not die, basically. But humans can't do that, so it must be like a robotic army, and we're almost getting to that point now because we have drones out there. You know, we have robots coming on the scene. We have enhanced, how did I put this right? Like a armor for human beings that increases your strength and your speed, basically. Like mech, more or less.
So skeleton, you mean?
Exoskeleton, exactly. Thank you. And there's that one verse in there from Ezekiel. I do believe in Ezekiel saying soldiers will fall off on a sword and not be killed or injured. And that, to me, that sounds like a robot. I could be wrong. But if you could challenge it, go into a little bit about Ezekiel a little bit, so the room knows what you're talking about, please.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Go ahead and explain to the room with your take on Ezekiel, what you asked me about, so the room knows what you're talking about. So I don't think too many people are really Bible scholars in the room.
Okay, basically Ezekiel 38 is about the war. It mentions Gog, G-O-G, and Magog. Gog is the name of a ruler, and Magog is the land. And Ezekiel 38:39 is about a war where God, G-O-D, drags Gog into a war it doesn't want to be in. And basically the war is about possibly Russia, some people say Turkey, but it's the far north, and all the directions are from the perspective perspective of Israel. And so the idea is that they say their motivation for invading Israel is to take a spoil from a country recovered from war and the other nations basically just sit around and go, "Hey, what are you doing?" And but they get to the mountains of Israel, and then God himself strikes them down and decimates their army. And some people think this is where Islam, because of all the countries named that go with Gog, they think this is where Islam is actually almost completely destroyed. Have you heard that theory?
I've heard that theory before. I mean, this ties in some of their seals coming up too, though, into some of the bowls and trumpets. And supposedly, from my studies and I've read from other people, Magog is supposed to be Russia, like you said. That's scary enough as it is, because now you look around you, we have the Cold War, and we made friends with Russia, and all was going well, and all of a sudden Obama gets in, and I don't know what happened with the politics with that stuff, though, but now it's like a second Cold War now, and Russia's gearing up its military again. It's gearing up its nuclear power, its weapons shields, space weapons, which we're only supposed to have it all, but I can bet you anything we have space weapons right now. We've had space weapons since Reagan announced it, basically. Remember what Reagan said back then, too? If the world came together against a threat from space, what if the Antichrist is here on the scene trying to make things whole again because of a supposed false flag, blue beam, alien invasion, you know? Something causes the world to come together as a one-world government, one-world religion, and this man, the Antichrist, is behind this. Yes, who is the Antichrist? I hear Antichrist all the time. It's basically, from my studies, it's Satan in the flesh, Lucifer in the flesh, you know. He can perform miracles and other nasty stuff if you read the book of Revelations. This man is supposed to be super intelligent, has the answers for everything. And one day he'll walk into the temple and declare himself God. That's the abomination of desolation talked about in the Bible. Which is kind of freaky, though. You have a world leader come inside of the temple, the rebuilt Jewish temple, and he'll declare himself God in front of everybody. Now, if that isn't a red flag, I don't know what is. But, Challenger, if you want to speak on the Antichrist for a little bit, you're more than welcome to.
Okay. Well, like you mentioned, there's different ideas. Hold on, a second. Let me push the lock so I don't have to hold this button down. Okay, now I'm on. The thing is that there's definitely an individual, regardless of what they call him, the son of perdition and all sorts of other things. And basically, this goes back into the book of Daniel, the 70 weeks prophecy, which I personally believe is what Revelation is, that 70th week. Oh, sorry. Maybe I can just... I am told my volume's a little high. Is everybody else okay with that? All right. I'll try not to yell into my mic. Anyway, the thing is about the Antichrist or whoever, whichever name you want to give him, there will be an individual, and he will sign an agreement for 7 years. Nobody knows exactly who with, but Daniel's prophecy is all about Israel and Jerusalem. It's very specific about them. So there's some kind of a treaty that's enforced for 7 years involving Israel and many other people. The other people aren't identified. But he makes this treaty, and it probably has something to do with getting the temple built for Israel. Because halfway through, after 3.5 years, and the years are prophetic years, they're 360 days each, not 365. Anyway, halfway through that, he breaks the treaty and desecrates the temple. That's what abomination means in the Bible. It means to, well, not just the Bible, in ancient languages, it means to desecrate a temple, and you do that by putting a false idol in it and making a false sacrifice. And that's what, this was actually fulfilled the first time a couple hundred years before Jesus came, because Antiochus Epiphanes fulfilled almost everything in Daniel's prophecy. But then Jesus came later and said it's going to happen again. And so we're going to look for somebody who does this. He's going to walk into the temple, declare himself God, set up an idol, and as soon as people in Israel see this, they're supposed to drop everything and run. And personally, I think they're going to run to the city of Petra in Jordan at the south end of the Dead Sea. But the thing is that I don't know how much detail you want. I could go on, but is that enough for now, or what? Okay. Let's see what else to say about the Antichrist. He will also, at the midpoint, and we match up points by Daniel's prophecy where it says in the middle he does this abomination. Well, when people see that, that happens, I think, at the seventh trumpet, either in that seventh trumpet or after it. And so if we were to match up Revelation with Daniel, that seems to be the point that matches where the desecration happens, the abomination. So when he does that, that's the seventh trumpet, and that would be this middle point of the tribulation. A lot of people don't agree with that. There's all kinds of scenarios, but that's what it looks like to me, that that's halfway through at that point. And at that point, supposedly he is possessed by Satan. He isn't possessed before that. In the first half of the tribulation, the 3.5 years, there's not much, there's judgments going on, but they're not as bad. Somebody's asking about the destruction of the temple in 70 AD. Yeah, that was prophesied too, and that's a little bit off track. That's a separate prophecy, and people get them mixed up all the time. Jesus actually had 2 speeches that he gave, one in public, and that was the one about 70 AD, where he talks about Jerusalem being surrounded by armies, and when you see this happening, you're supposed to take off and all that. And that was destroyed by the Roman armies under Titus, but Titus did not desecrate the temple. He didn't even want it destroyed. His soldiers actually did it. They burned it to the ground and not one stone left on another because they wanted to melt down the gold between the bricks. And so that was a fulfillment of what Jesus said publicly. And then later he goes up to the Mount of Olives with 4 of his disciples, the top 4, I guess you could call them, and then tells them all the rest of the stuff, which is mostly what I was talking about with the 7-year treaty and all that. He doesn't mention the 7-year treaty, but he does mention the abomination, and that's where we hook it up with Daniel and why Daniel's 70th week is Revelation. So he does all of that, and by the midpoint we know it should be the 7th trumpet. So if you look at the seals and then the trumpets, you have to wait for all that stuff to happen in order, and then he becomes possessed by Satan, who comes up from the abyss. And just before that, what happens with the abyss is an angel is given a key, and this is where I think it ties into CERN. I think CERN is a gateway, and they're trying to open the abyss, is what I think they're doing. And so basically they can't do it. They will keep failing until the key is given by God, by bringing it down with this angel, which some people say is actually Lucifer. But the abyss is open, and out comes all this locust army led by Apollo. His name is Apollyon in the Greek, but a lot of people think this is none other than the Greek god Apollo, who is Satan, and the name means destroyer. Either one of the names means destroyer. And he is the king of the locust army that comes out of there and torments people for 5 months. So there's a whole bunch of tie-ins there, and I don't want to hog the whole thing, so I'll just stop there. How's that?
That's some good stuff there. I mean, I wasn't going to that much detail about Revelations and Daniel, though. I was going to cover the 7 seals, but a little background is always good. And you touched upon the 7th seal, which we'll touch upon on Friday night. It's his own show, because it deals with the trumpets and the bowls and Armageddon. So it'll take some time to discuss, actually. Challenger, that was awesome. I'm in all of that. Before we hit the 5th seal, Kyle has a question he wishes to ask or something to add to the discussion.
So are we all pretty much in agreement that Obama is not the Antichrist? I mean, every president since Gerald Ford has been called the Antichrist. Does anybody actually believe that any politician alive on the earth today could possibly qualify as being the Antichrist?
Now, if you read in the Bible, Antichrist is supposed to be super smart, almost genius level, basically. Obama's nowhere near to genius level. I mean, I don't want to start bashing our president, but there's no way in hell he's the Antichrist. Excuse my French. I do believe the Antichrist is alive right now and walking the planet, just waiting to take over, basically. But like I said, if you study the Bible, the Revelations, the Antichrist has Satan's spirit inside of him. Basically, it's Lucifer incarnate, trying to copy Jesus when he was on the planet, basically. Everything Satan does, according to the Bible, is he tries to copy what God's already done before. So when I see Challenger as her mic lit up, please go ahead.
I was just going to say, I have a theory that in any generation, Satan always has somebody ready, whether it was Hitler or, you know, any of the despots of the past, any time in history since Jesus was here, because he doesn't know when it's going to happen. He has to have somebody ready. So, and I think also we should mention that the formation of Israel, for whatever reason and by whatever motive, is something that had to happen before any of this could take place, because there had to be an Israel and there has to be a temple and it has to be in Jerusalem for any of this stuff to start. So that in itself is a prophetic fulfillment, and there is an Old Testament saying, a statement, I think in Isaiah, I'd have to look that up, where they say, can a nation be born in a day? And then it says, you know, no sooner is Zion in labor than she gives birth to her children. And I think this referred to the fact that Israel was literally created in a day by the Balfour Declaration.
Before we get into the fifth seal, we should get into a little bit about the mark of the beast. Without this mark, you cannot buy or sell. And we have the technology now to have an RDIF chip inside your body, where you can just move your hand across a scanner and you can buy and sell, basically. So right now, at present day, we have the technology for this. Well, that mark, I do believe, is going to be inside your skin somewhere, as the Bible says. With the right hand or the forehead, I do believe. I could be wrong on that one. But without this mark, you can't buy or sell, which means you can't eat. You can't, buy food. You can't travel around and stuff. I mean, now we're going to a cashless society slowly. Not really slowly anymore, but faster and faster, though. Where we won't be carrying around money anymore. We'll have like a credit card at first, and eventually a chip. And everybody's, conspiracy theorists always talk about the chip, the mark of the beast. You can't buy or sell without it. We're going to that point, and if you do receive the mark of the beast, the Bible says you're eternally damned to hell. There's no going back. Am I correct on this, Challenger, or am I a little off base on this?
Yeah, that's right. I forget who it was, Billy Graham or somebody said, no, you can still be saved, but that's not true at all. It says whoever takes the mark is eternally condemned. And it does say in the Greek, it says the mark is etched, which, like an engraving. So it's scratched into the skin, and that sounds like a tattoo to me. And in my opinion, the reason people are condemned for taking it, there's two possible reasons, and both can be true. One is it's a pledge of loyalty to the Antichrist, and the other is that it's possibly something that changes your DNA so that you're not completely human anymore, which is exactly what was going on before the flood and why God had to wipe everybody out but Noah, who was, quote, perfect in his generations, meaning he was human. And that's what all that was about, but that's a whole different topic. But as far as the mark goes, it's above all a pledge of loyalty, and it could be anything, but I believe whatever it is, it must be tattooed in your skin. And we have to remember it's the mark of the beast, either the name or the number of the name. It's not our personal ID. It's his mark, not ours. So it's like a citizenship paper or something more like that.
Oh, give me the real thing. I don't want some corporate logo. I don't want some social security number tattooed on my arm. I want the real mark of the beast. I want there to be a standard of civilization that everybody has to have, and give it to everybody in the world. And if you don't want to be part of it and be a lawful citizen of something that means something, then get back to Zimbabwe. Cut those people out and give me the real thing. I don't want to be stuck in a mess of paperwork. I just want one thing that ties me into everything, one number, and let it be mine and let it be unable to be gotten by anybody else's. I think this whole mark of the beast thing is a great idea.
Good, good take on it there, Cryle. Now let's move on, shall we? We talked about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, the first 4 seals. Okay, we have basically half the population of the world gone. A little bit under that, a little over that. Basically, we have 3.5 billion people left, almost half, wiped out in the first 4 seals. Seal number 5. This gets a little creepy, folks, so get ready. As you all know, I bring the woo. And right now, we're getting some heavy woo here. Here we go. The 5th seal, Revelation 6, 9 through 11. When we opened the 5th seal, I saw the author of souls of those who have been slain because of the word of God and the testimony they have maintained. They called out in a loud voice, "How long, sovereign Lord, holy and true, until you judge the inhabitants of the earth and avenge our blood?" And each of them was given a white robe. They were told to wait a little longer until the number of their fellow servants and brothers who were to be killed, as they had been, was completed. So this seal is basically the martyrdom of the Christians, those who have not received the mark of the beast. I think this verse means basically they didn't want to comply with the status quo. They want to. It's almost like they were branded as revolutionists. But can you see in a modern day society us wiping out a certain religion, such as Christianity? Sure you can. Look at Islam right now. Many people are against Islam and they want Islam destroyed. Somebody's going to turn the tide against Christians to make people want to kill Christians. And this is kind of a tragic seal almost, because you're wiping out a whole religion of people, basically. Some people think they're going to bring out the guillotines for this alone. People will be killed in the streets because they're Christian or because they never received the mark of the beast. How do you think, Challenger, the reason they'll give during this time period for them to kill Christians? How will they justify this, in other words?
Well, as far as the mark of the beast goes, that really doesn't appear till, I think, the 7th trumpet again. So if the seals happen before that, which it seems to be the case, then it's not because of the mark. It's just because they're Christians. And I really don't know, other than, we're not given a lot of details why. But right now we already see a lot of Christians being killed by Islam, primarily, and it's just because they're Christians. And of course we know even in the West, Christianity has been kind of pushed to the side, and Christians get targeted in their businesses a lot of times, and but we know from the past, at least from like even World War II, how quickly people in Germany turned against the Jews, just because they had this charismatic leader who pointed to them as the scapegoat and the reason for their problems, and that could easily happen to Christians.
After billions of people had already been killed and the world is struggling with pestilence and starvation, if there's a whole bunch of Christians left over who say, "See, it was your fault, you did it, we're the good guys," it wouldn't be really all that hard to imagine everybody saying, screw these guys, let's go get them.
Ooh, a little reality to that a little bit, man. Yeah, I can see that happening too. Almost half the world's gone. You have Christians saying, "Yeah, you guys deserve this judgment. This is from God. You deserve it." Yeah, it probably won't go over so well, to be honest. Huh. Wow. Yeah, I mean, when I used to go to church back in the day, we were talking about, they're going to bring back the guillotine and Christians will be killed in the streets and stuff. I mean, they forget, though, the first 4 seals have already happened. The world's in a state of turmoil and chaos, basically. And anything can set anybody off. You're starving to death. Your mother, your child died from pestilence. You're not too happy at the time, Fulfillment of prophecy, PB says. Yeah, unfortunately, it's true, though. This is not good stuff. There's a happy ending, though, but Most of the world's dead by then, though, as you'll see as we go along. And now, the sixth seal. This is the real doomy stuff. This seal alone is epic all in itself. Yeah, you have the seventh seal with the bowls and the judgment seal, but just the way it's worded in the sixth seal, it's just going to... You might want to sit down for this one, okay, as I read this. And I want you to think what could possibly happen because of this. This is true doom stuff. This is conspiracy stuff. This stuff will scare you, put a chill down your spine. Get ready as we unleash the sixth seal. Okay? Revelation 6, 12 through 17. It's kind of long, though, so I'll try to go slow for you. But it's a long couple verses. I watched as he opened the sixth seal. There was a great earthquake. The sun turned black like sackcloth and made of goat hair. The whole moon turned blood red, and the stars in the sky fell to earth, as late figs dropped from a fig tree when shaken by a strong wind. The sky receded like a scroll, rolling up, and every mountain and island was removed from its place. Then the kings of the earth, the princes, the generals, the rich, the mighty, and every slave and every free man hidden in caves and among the rocks of the mountains, they called to the mountains and the rocks, fall on us and hide us from the wrath, from the face of him who sits on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of their wrath has come, and who can stand? Okay, in this verses here, the sun turns black, the moon turns blood red, and the stars fall out of the sky. But every mountain and island was moved from its place. Every mountain and island removed from its place. What could possibly cause this? Could it be a pole shift? Perhaps the passing of our sister sun Nemesis too close to the Earth? Maybe a meteor impact of epic proportions. But have the sun be covered up in pure black and the moon red, which means there's dust or debris in the atmosphere blocking it out, pretty much, in my opinion. And a massive earthquake. So from a CT perspective, is this a pole shift? Could it be our sister sun Nemesis, planet X, coming too close to the Earth, and the gravitational pull is too much for it? The dust cloud of that brings meteorites striking the Earth, causing a dust cloud to cover the whole Earth, blocking out the sun, causing the moon to turn blood red. That's the sky part again, too. It's amazing. The sky we see it like a scroll rolling up, and every mountain and island was moved from its place. You see it like a scroll. Volcanoes erupting, clouds moving out of the way quickly. Jimmy Jetty. If the moon turns red and the sun black, what's illuminating the moon then? Just saying. You can still see the outline of the sun, though, right? That's a good question, actually. And here we go with the flat Earth stuff. Just kidding. Okay, Challenger, would you like to add to this? Please.
Funny you mentioned flat Earth. I was just thinking about that because the word for stars is aster, where we get astronomy, and it says that those fall from the sky to the Earth. And obviously, if they mean real stars, there's a problem here. If the stars are huge, enormous suns that are all going to come crashing to the Earth, that just can't physically happen. So either they are, the word for stars includes meteors and other space debris, or we could possibly have a flat Earth proof here. You could take that either way. The thing about the moon turning red and the sun black, obviously they're happening at the same time, so this cannot be a normal eclipse. We had all that fad about the blood moons and all that. I could go on about that, but basically this is not a natural occurrence. It's not an eclipse. It's something like when you have a volcano go off and can cause the red moon. I saw a yellow moon the one day when there was something got in the atmosphere. It came down from Canada. I forget what the deal was there, but so any kind of atmospheric disturbance can cause that. And then we have the sky receding like a scroll at the same time. So obviously, but this is something more than that, because normally just even a really bad volcano isn't going to cause the sky to recede like that. But it's not real specific. We can't say. But there's also this is called. Let me see. I'll look it up here quick. The stars fall as if they're when you shake a fig tree and the figs drop out. That's how they look when they're falling, whatever that means. And for the mountains and islands to shift, here again, we're not talking about any normal volcano. We're talking about something really bizarre, like such as a passing planet like Planet X or something like that, would be my guess.
I had a fig tree, and one of the things that I learned with my fig tree was that it is one of the first trees to bear fruit, and the fruit stays on the vine until the very last of the season. You see fig trees in the Bible, you have them, Adam and Eve, they wear the clothing made of fig leaves, and then in the apocalypse here we have the fig leaves falling. The figs are, metaphorical. It's also describing the manner of doing this. If I were to see rolling up as a scroll, I'm thinking turning more than just meteors. It really does seem to indicate something like a pole shift, and you'd have all of the atmospheric catastrophes following that.
Whatever you believe on this, though, this is just epic doom. I mean, you had the first force fields wiping out almost half the planet. Now you have an event like a pole shift coming on board. People are going to die from this too, obviously. I mean, people are going to be freaked out. The sun is black. The moon's red. The stars are falling out of the sky, which can be meteorites. How else would you describe it back then? That's how I would describe it. Stars are falling. This is not like from a nuclear exchange or anything. Or could it be? If you have a nuclear exchange that covers the sun and the moon, it's total annihilation. So I don't think it's a nuclear war. Nemesis, Planet X, coming too close. We recently discovered a 9th planet out there, folks. It's been there for a long time. We just now discovered it. It's supposed to be a gas giant. It's supposed to be immense. We really don't know what's out there, to be honest. We keep changing things. Oh, Pluto's a planet, now it's not a planet. Now we discovered a 9th planet. It's supposed to be big. Mind this, though. As you all know, I bring the woo. It's woo time, folks. Guess what? Every single planet in the solar system is heating up by a couple degrees, if not more. Something is affecting the planet. Something's affecting the orbits a little bit. Something's out there. And even the scientists say something else is out there. And keep in mind, half the stars in the sky you see out there are part of a binary system. 2 suns. Why are we any different? Do I believe we have a sister sun? You betcha. And it's called Nemesis. And every so often it comes along and causes cataclysm here. Remember the Great Flood? What would cause that? Possibly a pole shift, possibly a planet or a sun coming too close, the gravitational pull messing with the planet. To me, this sounds like classic pole shift material. You have an earthquake. Remember, the first thing is an earthquake. You have a great earthquake, a huge earthquake. Then you have the mountains and islands removed from its place. Do you understand how much energy it takes to move a mountain or to move an island? That's immense power right there. It's huge power. And a simple little meteorite explosion over in in the United States or something else will not cause that. It has to be something massive, something immense. That kind of power to move mountains and islands around. To me, that just sounds like a pole shift completely. Whether you believe in the Nemesis thing, Planet X, or whatever, something major causes to happen. And like Challenger said, it could be a pole shift. It could be a huge meteor strike, a massive meteor strike, basically. But you imagine just people at the time period when this happens in the future, maybe the near future, you never know. You're outside, half the world's gone, basically, and you can't see the sun, it's black, and the moon turns red. It appears red in the sky at nighttime.
So does that leave it all as just a natural event that people have attached mythological significance to? Or is this actually God? Let's say it's a pole shift, meteorites, all of that stuff, earthquakes, the whole shebang. Is it God? Is it Jesus Christ behind it, or is it just a natural series of events that we've attached the story to it all?
Well, if you go with according to the Bible, the seven seals, these are judgments. God's allowing this to happen, basically. And He's not causing it, but He's allowing it to happen. What do you think, Challenger?
Well, it pretty much tells us what it is. If we look at verses 15 to 17, it says the kings and all these people, they hide in holes in the ground, which, as a side note, I think has something to do with those deep underground military bases. And they say to the mountains and rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of the one sitting on the throne and from the fury of the Lamb, for the day of their great fury or wrath has arrived, and who is able to stand. So they know where it's coming from. They know that the Lamb is opening the seals and that this is a judgment of God. I mean, it just says it point blank right there.
I got a question for you, Challenger, please. Okay, you see all this stuff going on, the first four seals, the fifth seal, and now you have the sixth seal, all these signs and wonders in the skies. Why aren't people turning to God now? You know, you think people would be, on their knees praying for forgiveness, and they're not. As you read further in Revelations, they're totally against God. Why is that, do you think?
Well, I can see this being set up not only in the message boards, but pretty much in general, where people have been given the idea, and this is a Luciferian idea, where God is the bad guy, Yahweh is the bad guy, the evil God of the Old Testament, and he's running this, this is even partly in the flat earth thing where they believe that God is running us like a Truman Show, and he's bad because he's done a bad job, and now he's coming back to harvest his crop, and so we have to fight against him because he's the bad guy. You see how that's set up?
Basically, the Antichrist probably brainwashes these people, I'm the good guy, and this guy named Jesus or, Yahweh is the bad guy, basically. I can totally see that, because the Antichrist is supposed to be performing miracles, too, counterfeit miracles that of God, basically, And there's a verse, I do believe, that if God didn't cut days short, that even the very elect would be fooled by this person. It's just scary stuff. I mean, when I was younger and I read the sixth seal, I was like, wow, I was shaking a little bit afterwards. Like, this is going to happen eventually. This is just intense, But why, though? Why would God do this to us? We're not exactly good people, folks. Look around you. Look on the news and stuff, Look at all the crimes going on. Look at all the evil in the world. Let's look at it from, like, say you're an alien race coming to Earth and you're looking around. We're a warlike, vicious race. We're not exactly that civilized when it comes to morals, and what's right. Like, technology-wise, we might be a little advanced, a little bit. But morally, we're bankrupt. We've lost our way. We've put breadcrumbs in the forest. We can't find them anymore. We're a lost creation, basically. And I think God has had enough,
Every time humans start to have fun, God comes and squashes it. Throughout the Bible, at the very least. You look back to some of the earliest times that humans got their stuff together after the Great Flood. They're all together. There's Nimrod, the mighty hunter, who unites them in this one great work where they're building the tower. Who is it that screws it up? It's not Nimrod. It's not his people. It's not his government or its system. It's God. God says, look at them now. They can accomplish anything. And what's he do? He messes it up. And throughout the Bible, any time, in the Old Testament, all these prophets and their seals and their monsters and tribulations, they come out with, well, gee, King, you're having too much fun. All of your people are happy, but they forgot the word of God, so God's going to destroy them.
No.
Here's something, too, that during the Great Flood, God regretted creating us because we failed him, basically, and he gave us free will, and we've not lived up to his expectations, basically. Look around you, though, Christo. We're not a good creation, man. We're constantly fighting each other. We're greedy. We care about ourselves. We're selfish. We're vain. I mean, there's a verse for that somewhere in the Bible, but I mean, we're not good people. The human race is not good, man. You have to agree to that, don't you? Let's put it this way. Let's say God didn't step in and he didn't care about us. We'd destroy ourselves anyways eventually, It's only a matter of time. Power-hungry, selfish human beings want to take control of the world. The Romans tried it. The English tried it. Asians tried it. Every civilization has tried to take over the planet at some point in time, basically. You know, we're no different. I mean, we have bases everywhere in various countries throughout the world. As much as I love America, we're not exactly that good anymore as we used to be. Maybe we do need judgment. Maybe we need these seals.
Every time God has instituted some measure of control among humanity, in the Bible at least, it's always some guy who comes along and tells us all what we're doing wrong and then expects us all to change in some grand fundamental way. Whatever it is that makes civilization work, God comes along and says, you can't do that anymore. The entire concept of the seals in Revelation is much more of that. You're all wanting to buy and sell things. I like buying things. I like selling things. I don't want a God that's going to come along and tell me, you have to stop that now. You have to go and live like Jeremiah Johnson somewhere. I don't like that. The whole concept of these seals to me is very oppressive. It's unpleasant. It seems unnecessary.
Unnecessary is an understatement. God is a fucking joke. He doesn't exist. And if he does exist, then he's a sadistic fucking bastard, in my opinion.
First of all,
Anyways,
you're
go ahead, Challenger.
He's burning a lot of straw men here. He's not saying what the Bible said at all. As far as Nimrod goes, Nimrod is believed to have been one of the Nephilim, a human-angel hybrid who was defying God and who had said, okay, here's the world, go spread out and cover it and manage it. And Nimrod says, no, I don't want to do what God says. I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to build a tower and unite everybody against God. And so there's these pesky details in all these alleged stories of God being bad. And for that matter, God can do what he wants. He created people, he can do what he wants. But there is always a good reason for when God messes things up. It's like after, or just before the flood, the angels, the fallen angels, were interbreeding with humans and creating these hybrids in an effort to corrupt the human genome. And God says, no, you're not going to do that. I'm going to wipe you out and start over, because they were messing with humanity and they didn't have any right to do it. So there's always another side to the story, and a lot of what you hear about the Bible, you know, the God of the Old Testament is this evil monster, are simply not true, and we really don't have time to get into that in this talk. I mean, it's almost over already, and I'd really like to skip down to the large crowd at verse 9, chapter 7, verse.
Well, the Lamb called forth this guy who kills a third of the earth. I mean, that doesn't sound exactly pleasant. Nobody says, wow, a third of the earth, he must have got rid of all the jerks. We realize that a third of the earth is a large number of people to have been killed. It's not us that did this. I guess it's us that did it, but we're doing it because God says this should be. Why should that happen? Why is that good?
Waiting for me or what? Yeah, somebody mentioned free will. That's exactly what it is. And people were given the earth to manage it. They screwed it up royally, and now God's coming back to ask for an accounting. And basically the world has turned its back on God, and you can't just do that and expect no consequences.
In the World War, we killed, 100 million people. It was a lot of people that died in the war, but we cut it off at a point. And we had an idea of who was the soldiers, and granted, innocent people die. Humans die in war. What God is decreeing is, bam, here, I'm going to cause this to happen where a third of the human population will be destroyed. And then he gets progressively worse until we're all dead. This concept of the apocalypse makes God look like a major jerk. How can we view this as good?
Not good if you belong to Satan and you pledge your loyalty to God's mortal enemy. I mean, that's just, it's a cosmic war. And the purpose of the seals is actually, it's a legal document where Jesus, who died for the human race, is actually finally coming back to take what belongs to him back from Satan. Of course, Satan complains about it, and all his people who like doing things their way instead of God's way are going to complain about it, and they think he's the evil monster. So, but that's basically what the seals are. They are opening a document that shows God's ownership, that Jesus bought the human race back again, and now he's coming to take his property. And you know, what do people have to say about it? I mean, they've screwed up the world royally, and look how many billions have died because of all the evil things people have done. But I think this is really a side topic that is going to eat up the whole time. I think we've already reached the hour. We haven't even finished the seals yet.
There is no fucking God. Sorry, my friends.
You're not sorry.
There is no God. There is no God. I mean...
So say you. You'll find out.
I just have a hard time seeing any of this as being something that we should really look forward to. It's one thing to say, wow, we're going to be terrified by it because God is so awesome. It's another thing to look forward to it and say, wow, I'm so happy. Thank goodness that all of this will occur. I think that it's an absolute nightmare. And that what we're looking at...
It's supposed to be a nightmare. It's supposed to be.
Why is God so nightmarish? Why is God so nightmarish? This is the same God that we're told to love and revere. Why so nightmarish? Why the plagues? Why the beasts? Why the terror? It's God. He can do what he wants. Why would he have to scare us so much?
People have had, 2,000 years since Jesus came? And all this time, God has not done anything, and people have been mad at God for not doing anything. So if he finally comes and does something, and now you're mad at him again.
What I love about this, guys, hold on a second, Challenger, please. This is only the first 6 seals. You guys are all wound up. The 7th seal is just disastrous. You guys are all excited about it now. Wait till Friday's show when the world gets totally destroyed, basically, from the remaining judgments. I mean, you have the trumpets, then you have the bowls. I mean, some people think they're the same thing. They're not, though, because the trumpets open up the bowls. I think some of the trumpets are localized events, become worldwide events in the bowls, basically. Then we have the Battle of Armageddon coming up, too. So we're all charged up right now. I'd love to go on with the show and stuff, but just too much information in the bowls and the trumpets to do another hour right now. And this is just great stuff, I mean, from everybody. I appreciate the opinions, both sides of it. Really, I do. But the 7th seal is the worst one of all. And it gets worse as it goes on. You have the 3 woes. You have the 7 trumpets. You have the 7 bowls. And you have the biggest battle of mankind. When all the armies of the earth gather together to fight each other in the Battle of Armageddon. We'll also turn their attention toward God and try to fight God. That doesn't go over so well, which we'll get to that too. 1,000 years of peace, a new earth, a new heaven. This week coming up this Friday, I will do final thoughts from the people on the mics, and I'll close the show out and get ready for the show on Friday. So any final words there? Bug Girl, Cryo, then go to Challenger for final thoughts on that too. Go ahead.
Nobody else wants to say something? I was just going to say, as part of the 6th seal, there's this large crowd seen in heaven, and that is more of a theological thing, and I won't get into too deep, but basically it says that the tense in the Greek is they are coming out of the Great Tribulation, so that's a kind of, there's some time anomalies that complicate things a little bit, but other than that, I will say that, as I was saying just a bit ago, that this is Jesus taking back what belongs to him. Satan's been running the world since the fall in the Garden of Eden, and that's why the world has been messed up. And because of God's patience, these things have been delayed, and now they're not going to be delayed anymore. And like I said, people aren't happy no matter what God does. If he doesn't immediately punish every wrong that's happened in history. They fault him for that, and then when he finally waits all these thousands of years and finally does something, they don't like that either, so there's no pleasing them. And I think that's what is being proved in these final judgments, not just the seals, but all of them, is God is proving it doesn't matter if he puts you in a paradise where nothing's wrong, or you've been living in Satan's kingdom for 4,000 years, you're just not going to like it, and this is proof of that.
Good stuff, real good stuff. Now review. We went over the... Go ahead, Cryo. Go ahead before I close it up.
I just think that it should be criminal to tell people that they have to do something or that they shouldn't do something on account of the world ending presently. I remember reading a Jehovah's Witness tract where they told people not to go to college because by the time that you would get through it that Jesus would return. And it just seemed to me like the whole idea of the apocalypse was being used as a propaganda tool. I think that should be severely discouraged.
Good point. What if this is all true? What if this is all going to happen eventually, my friend? I mean, this is at the end of the world, basically, as we know it. Here's the first seal, the veiling of the Antichrist, going out to conquer the whole planet, basically. I mean, that alone is just... Well, it's been coming to a head for a while now. We knew we were going to come to a point where we have a one-world government, a one-world religion. We all come together. I mean, we have the United Nations, but it's not coming together. But we have every single nation under one ruler. Everyone's talked about that for the longest time. If one person ruled the world, would it be better or would it be worse? Maybe for a while it'll be better, but eventually it turns to crap down the road. People have disagreements and stuff. They want their own identity. Deal number 2 is war, World War III, basically. 1/3 of the population is decimated. Over 2 billion people dead. Yourself, famine. People are struggling to survive. A day's wages for a loaf of bread. Bad times. Everyone's starving. There's war everywhere. It's like a nightmare. It really is. The 4th seal is pestilence. A disease wipes out the remaining 1/4 of the population. Probably some incurable disease, maybe from the laboratory, maybe from the dead bodies rotting and stuff, but we developed some pretty nasty stuff in laboratories, let's be honest here, for weapons and just see if we can do it or not, which is stupid. We have diseases locked up in vaults in laboratories that there's no cure for. They could decimate the population of the planet. We're doing it just because we can do it. There's no cure for nothing. And how many times has something come loose for in the laboratory? AIDS. If you don't think AIDS is man-made, look at the virus, okay? We made that thing, okay, and it got loose somehow or some way, or was planned to get loose. We have some nasty stuff on this planet. If it ever gets loose, though, we're in trouble. The 5th seal, martyrdom of the saints. The wiping of a whole faith, basically. Like, that can't ever happen. Look at today now. Everybody hates Islam. Everybody hates Muslims. There's people out there, nutcases out there saying, let's wipe them all out. Let's kill them all. So it is possible. It could be reality. Look around you in the world today. It's not a good place. Then we have the 6th seal, the most freakiest one of all. When every mountain island was removed from its place, the sun turns black, the moon turns to blood, and the stars fall out of the sky. And people are hiding in domes, underground bunkers, in the mountains, scared, terrified. But the worst is yet to come. This Friday, join us for the end of the world as we know it, as the 7th seal is opened up, and the trumpets are unveiled, and the bowls are revealed. And you'll join us for the Battle of Armageddon, of all the armies of the world joined together to fight each other. And to fight God, too, at the end of it. So this Friday, if you're not doing anything, it means you are, join us. We have 20 people in this chat tonight. I predict we're going to have more. Hopefully my friend Challenger will be back to help me out here. But the 7th seal is terrifying. It'll put chills down your spine. You'll probably not sleep well that night, to be honest. These plagues, these judgments are horrible, to say the least. You think you haven't seen nothing yet? You haven't seen nothing yet until the seventh seal is unveiled. It is terrifying. Judgment from God. Thank you, everybody. See you Friday.